I have a sign-in sheet here, my contact information on my card, and a PowerPoint presentation, just in the event that we're not able to get projection this morning. So I thank you for coming this morning, and I understand you guys are in the throes of testing, so I'm going to try to keep this brief and to the point. Thank you, Chastity, Ms. Daniels, for that warm introduction. I had a picture of a student that I had met at the Bridges Marriott Marquis, a student that was diagnosed with dyslexia, had trouble and difficulty in school his entire school career, K-12, and didn't see much of a future for himself. And through the transition program, he was able to get linked up with Bridges Marriott, and he's employed today, and he shared, I mean, he was like robust with excitement because when he got on the job and he found out that there were possibilities for him, he decided, okay, if I can grow in this field, I like what I'm doing, then I'm going to learn how to read. I'm going to overcome this obstacle. So he actually used his smartphone to help him learn how to read. So he went his entire school career as a struggling reader. And because he had this intrinsic motivation, he was able to get the job at the Marriott. They supported him through promotion processes. And part of the Bridges program is that they're always encouraging the young people to advance themselves. So they don't allow them to get comfortable in an entry-level position. They're always motivating them, okay, what do you have your eyes on next? So he kind of inspired me this summer when I met him, to the point where I want to share his face and his story with everyone that I meet. The learning targets for today are simple. I can describe ESSEP and its intended impact at Long Middle School. I can engage in discussion regarding my role on the school-based ESSEP team. And I'm going to kind of gloss over the meeting ones, because today's kind of out of the ordinary. Respect time, personal technology, authentic engagement, and assume responsibility. But I've heard so many great things about Long Middle School, I don't think that that's going to be an issue. And I had the opportunity to sit with Ms. Hill last night at our special ed advisory meeting, and she's just so enthusiastic and supportive of the special ed population that I can only expect great things to come from this. So some of the goals of ESSEP is that it's the state systemic improvement plan, otherwise known as Student Success Imagine the Possibilities. It has a multi-year focus, and the desired outcome is to improve graduation outcomes for students with disabilities. It kind of falls under the school improvement umbrella, but with a laser focus on the special education or high risk or at-risk populations. We're in year 3 of the cycle. So the first year was kind of building out ESSEP from DOE's level. And they identified 50 schools that would receive technical assistance. APS happened to be one of them, and we started with high schools. So we are in our 2nd year at South Atlanta High School. Some districts have elected to pick up another high school, but given the culture of the South Atlanta cluster, I thought it would be prudent to go down to the feeder school, to the middle school. What we found in our data analysis was that a lot of our students were not faring well on their 9th grade lit and of course test. And so, you know, that raised a couple of eyebrows when we looked at their Lexile scores and saw how low they were entering the 9th grade. So I've had this conversation with the administrative team, and you know, one of the things that they said right away was, we need intensive reading and support. We need interventions. You know, you all are exhausting yourselves with the things that you're doing, and there's so many factors that are outside of your control. So what else can we do to support you? And that's going to be the focus for Long Middle School. Each school kind of has their own focus. For South Atlanta, we're focusing on access to move on when ready, dual enrollment. We're focusing on interventions for attendance, behavior, and course completion. We know that scheduling is an issue. We know that some of the behaviors that exist in the high school impact the attendance, the suspension rates. You know, it's like a chain effect. So what we're trying to do is we've built a team at South Atlanta, and that team is monitoring the caseload of students that have been identified at South Atlanta High School. So I kind of fast forwarded just so that you can get an idea of what it looks like on the high school end. APS created a district-wide action plan. The action plan is a fluid document. which means it has changed every single year. What we did this year is we added some data pieces. We identified some data pieces that we'll be using to drive our intervention process, our actions, to see what things need to be changed throughout the year. What I can say about the action plan, that I'm glad that it's a fluid plan, because if we find something early on that's just really not working, we can tweak it. I will go through the structure of our ESSA team. So we have a district team, and we have core teams, and we have school-based teams. As I said, we're in year 3, and the purpose of student success is to eventually support students throughout the district. And that was kind of evident when we did the consolidated application last year. All the federal programs had to put their application together, so it wasn't an individual application per department. And so the focus is that we're all kind of moving in the same direction. During this 2017-18 school year, we've added long. The idea is that whatever we're able to do here that's successful can be replicated throughout the district. So it's almost like you're the pilot schools. The structure for ESSA are the state level teams that funnel information down to the GLRS regional teams. We have district teams, and that's comprehensive of associate superintendents, department coordinators, building staff members, principals. It's a multidisciplinary team, external stakeholders, and we have our school-based teams as well. The tiered system of coaching is that we have our school leader. I'm going to start on the bottom. I'm the district coach, so I support whatever plan, school improvement plan's been developed by your team, and I support Ms. Hill and Ms. Mayfield, who she's designated as the administrator in charge. And then there's a regional coach that I have to report to. So I have like monthly check-ins, and I have a timeline that I have to adhere to. I check into the regional coach, who says, how's everything going at Long? Or how's everything going at South Atlanta? Have you met? How are your students faring? And then she takes that back up the loop to the area coach, who's now identified as the state coach. And from there, they have discussions about what are best practices. Sometimes they push out information that might help our schools, or best practices that are being done in other counties that have worked well. I meet with other coaches throughout the state, and we share best practices as well.
I'm sorry, who's the regional coach?
The regional coach is Kimberly Thorpe.
Oh.
From GLRS.
Yeah.
So I know that you guys have already looked at your CCRPI data, and I mean, pat yourselves on the back as you're trending in the right direction. But we know that with the changes in the calculations of CCRPI, we don't really know what to expect for this year, right? So it's kind of it has everyone in a little bit of a frenzy. And so this is why it's almost like the perfect time for us to come in and say, we're gonna add a layer of support for the special ed population. Although we're only identifying 50 students, it does not mean that the interventions or the resources that we're able to bring into the school are only going to be for that 50. Because if we're able to expand that, if we find, I know that this is a high transient population, so if some students move in who have pervasive needs and they can benefit from some of the things that we've developed as an ESSA team, then of course we welcome those students as well. I want to tell you a little bit about what we did this year with the core team. I kind of changed that dynamic. I tried to get people from different departments who had expertise in certain areas, and after just having a meeting with Chastity in August and then having the meeting with the administrative team in October, I understood that, okay, maybe we can get some more wraparound supports here. The community kind of needs a little bit more community engagement. We need a little bit more family engagement. You know, there are a few things that came up that we needed. So I enlisted our turnaround liaison, Chris Purdy, to the core team, and he's been a wealth of knowledge. He's been pushing out information to us that I will funnel out to you so that we can get some more community-based supports in. Now, when we look at Long Middle School data at a glance, we have the total student population as of this morning, and I know that it changes frequently at 795, according to Infinite Campus. Okay, students with disabilities, 122.
That's right.
Whew. Grade
No,
6.
Seriously, that's right.
Grade 6, 48 students. Grade 7, 43 identified special ed students. And grade 8, 31. The gender breakdown is 83 males and 39 females. So out of the existing student population for special education, we're targeting 19 sixth graders, 15 seventh graders, and 16 eighth graders. This list of 50 will be uploaded to the DOE portal, and those students will be tracked through post-graduation. Does anyone have any questions about anything so far?
And we just limited to only 50.
There are 50 that are on the list, but it doesn't mean that it's only 50 that we'll be supporting. It's a huge undertaking when you have 122. Because in a perfect world, we would want to get, something to every student. And what I shared with one of the members was that, I anticipate, because the cluster has a high mobility rate, over the Christmas break there may be some students that move out. And so the DOE portal upload date isn't until January. So when we return to school, I'll go in and I'll check the rolls and I'll consult with Ms. Daniels to see if those students are still present. And as long as they're still here, then we can go ahead and upload these names that are identified on the list. But in the event that someone has moved out and we have an opening, then we'll add students on as needed. The focus was to add 8th graders, but we know that problems start and deficits start early on. So we decided, we made an executive decision to have 8th grade, 7th grade, and 6th grade so that we can kind of support along the way in preparation for high school. So now, when we look at building the ESSET team, the administrative team decided to use the CARE team. And so that's awesome because DOE actually encourages us not to build another team. It becomes a little bit too cumbersome. And you all are already doing this work. So when we take the CARE team, embed some ESSET pieces to it, we have our ESSET team. And our minimum requirements are that we're meeting monthly for an hour. So I guess we'll work out the inner workings of that because I'm not too sure how long your CARE team meets right now. So we can figure something out.
Probably about that same amount of time, actually.
Okay, so we'll be creative in how we'll meet those requirements. So the team should be multidisciplinary. Counselors, instructional coaches, case managers, parent mentor, graduation coaches, special education and general education teachers, engagement specialists, any other staff members that has interaction and access to student information. The team will meet monthly to monitor progress, introduce new information, and engage in tasks that will support the overall action plan which we will be developing. The team will monitor and support 50 identified targeted students, which I provided you with a list, and the members are expected to have caseloads in which they monitor the students. So the members of the team become the caring adult in the building. And you have an informal interaction with your student. It's nothing where you have to document everything and fill out all these forms. It's just kind of checking in, hey, how's everything going? How's the family? You peep into Infinite Campus and you say, oh, I see you're missing a couple of assignments in social studies. What's going on with that? Have you talked to your teacher? Did she give you opportunity to make them up? And just kind of having that dialogue, building that relationship so that if students have issues along the way, they have someone that they can go to and that they trust.
Okay.
Yes.
So are these students in special ed?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so I'm an engagement specialist.
I know, and so the engagement specialists are unique because they're not supposed to have contact with special ed students.
We don't have special ed students on our caseload.
Yes.
But we do that, which you're talking about.
Yes, I know. That's what I love because I said in one of your trainings for Check and Connect, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is essentially the same practices. And I love the fact that it's becoming like universal. So we're looking at the at-risk population. You're working with a lot closer than what I'm describing now. And then for the ESSET team, it's a little bit more informal. So what I do at South Atlanta High School is Dr. Smith kind of oversees wellness, she oversees any type of community resources, but she doesn't have the caseload of students because she's not supposed to have, you know, contact with the special ed population until that changes.
Right.
But we need your input because you're the expert in this monitoring piece. And so I've included some data from our end of grade milestones comparing 2016 to 2017. And I went over this with Chastity in August, and you can see that again you're trending in the right direction. You're decreasing your beginning learners, you're increasing your developing learners, and you have a minimal increase with your proficient or your distinguished. So we're moving, we're moving slowly in the right direction. And I'm under the impression that with all that I hear about Relay, all of that instant feedback, and I mean all the hard work that you guys are putting in, I can only imagine that it's going to just continue to trend in the right direction. So I'm not going to belabor these slides because I want to make sure that I can get to the Lexiles, because this was a big chunk of the discussion, the reading scores. So now, the Lexile data, this was for school-wide for FY17. And so they say that the Common Core Lexile for 6th grade, the range is 925 to 1070 about. So we look here, and this is not special ed population, it's the entire school. About 57% in the 6th grade are ranking in under less than 925, so less than grade level. 28%, 925 to 1070, and then the above would be 15%. And similarly for 7th grade and 8th grade. That's pretty clear, right? Okay, so then I also included this non-SWD versus SWD milestone data, just so that you can kind of take a look at what the numbers look like for the special ed population. So this would be your special ed population, your non-special ed population, 45% are beginning learners, and then this is your special ed population, 93% for the 6th grade in the ELA. And we'll see why. I mean, we'll see why in a second. So similarly I'll send it to you. Similarly for 7th grade, your non-SWD population is about 51% in the beginner and 93% for students with disabilities. So as far as developing learners, developing and above, for 6th and 7th grade, that's like 17% for 6th grade and 14% for 7th grade that are non-special ed students. The special ed students haven't even attained that developing level on the milestone. And this is the 2016 data. Does anybody have any questions about this? I'm sure you've seen this already, but I just wanted to be able to share it. No questions?
Can I speak to him?
Yes. I appreciate it because you brought smiles back to their faces. I'm so sorry if I was bringing doom and gloom. I wasn't trying to. I just wanted to show you, provide you with some of the information that I'm sure that you are familiar with, just so you can see where we're starting from. This is just a starting point. And please know that we're here to support. We're not here to, overburden you with any more tasks or anything like that. I kept saying to Dr. Bogan, I want them to have a toolkit. I want them to have a toolkit. I want them to have a toolkit. I've been in the classroom and I know what it's like. You're getting all these licenses, you're getting all these resources, the curriculum has a million pieces, you don't even know where to start. And then you have your class, you may not even have all that information from day one on your students. I know what it's like, I've been there. So I want to support you because I want you guys to have that passion and love for what you do every day, like you did when you first started. Sometimes serving in at-risk communities, it becomes so much. You take on the burdens of your students, you go home wearing all that stuff, you're heavy, and I just want you to be light again. So that's why we're here. But I want to just go back quickly because I want you to hold on to that number in your head, the 925. So that's like the starting of 6th grade Lexile, right? So the students that we selected, what we did was we cross-referenced attendance and discipline lists from previous years. First, to see who were heavy hitters, who were on both lists, who had excessive absences or tardies, who had suspension violations or infractions in their discipline records. Whoever was on the list and was still enrolled in the school automatically went on our SF list. Then we have an Aspire piece that I'm sure some of you have heard about, student-led IEPs, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but I'll give you a little snippet about Aspire and how it kind of all fits into what we're going to be doing. We identified Aspire students. Those students also went on the SF list, and then we looked at academics and Lexile specifically. Because what we want to do, we know that 9th grade lit in the course test is a barrier for our students. And a lot of our students start dropping out after the 8th grade. When we look at the climate surveys, something happens when they leave Crawford Long and they go to South Atlanta High School, and I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the culture here is supportive and engaging, and they go to the high school and they don't feel that. I haven't yet identified what it is. But we know that something happens. So what we want to try to do is make a robust intervention, robust supports here that will give the kids those skills so that when they get to the high school they can thrive and survive. Now I hope that you can see this. This is just a visual representation of what our targeted student Lexile scores look like. Now remember, these are students with disabilities, okay? They already have an IEP, and they have an IEP for a reason, so we know that it's going to be lower than grade average. But let's look here. This student here has a 210 Lexile, and you're teaching on your grade level curriculum. So that means that student may not even know what a vowel sound is. And that's real talk. I'll send you a picture. So this is why I started picking Dr. Bogan's brain, because he's the reading guru. How can we get this information? How can we develop something specific for long and long students that will support our teachers so that they can do what they're supposed to do, but they can have manageable interventions? That's not sitting a student on a computer, because let's be real. If I put this 210 on a computer, what are they going to do?
Go to
click,
YouTube.
click, 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 okay, I'm done.
Go to YouTube.
Or go to something else, yes. Do something they have no business doing. But it's not really serving its purpose. So that 210 needs intensive one-to-one or small group instruction. And if we can do it consistently, 15, 20 minutes each day, find a little block of time where we're doing this intervention, we're doing formative assessment, and Dr. Bogan has it all. I mean, he led an awesome PD at, I think at Finch, where the teachers were actually saying, no, don't stop. They were so engaged. Don't stop, because he was giving them such great nuggets that, I told them, once we start this dialogue with our staff, they're gonna remember all the stuff from undergrad. And it's gonna be like, oh yeah, I could do that. It is easier than I thought. But when you're in the throes of it, it seems so overwhelming. So it's kind of just a reminder. And then I want you all to walk away with something that you have as tangible. So not just a bunch of directions when sales reps come in and praise their software or their program and say, oh, it can do all this stuff and it can run data reports for you and you have it and you're at a loss. I want you all to walk away with something tangible that you can implement in your classroom. You can hit the ground running. You'll have your data pieces for your progress monitoring, and you'll be able to see growth. Does anyone have any questions? So, the question is, how can we consistently and collaboratively move the improvement needle? You all are here, you know your population, you know what you're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, so you all are the voice. You're the one that are driving this. The immediate request from the leadership team was an intensive reading intervention. Ms. Hill asked for Lexia license. I was able to secure 15. Our assistive technology, Dr. Johnson, will be out to walk you through the process. The great thing with the Lexia license is that it's not owned by one individual. So once that child moves up, we can give it to someone else. But we're going to use a tiered approach, because remember that 210? That 210 can't sit on Lexia yet. That 210 is going to need to sit with a teacher, and the technical assistance that we provide to the staff and the tools that we build with the staff will be what the 210 is going to use until they progress through that, and then they're able to go into Lexia. That means they're close to grade level, and then we can bump them up. An intensive math intervention. We know that math is loaded with reading. So unless we address this reading piece, the only thing we can really do with math is fluency of facts and computation, because the questions are so long, and if you're not able to read on grade level, there's no way to, you don't even know where to begin. So now, Dr. Bogan is the reading expert, and I'm passionate about math. I love math. And then the other thing that we wanted to do is increase family engagement. That was like some of the first things that we discussed. But based upon the data, we also need to implement some type of attendance supports and suspension alternatives, because we know the culture. The culture of the cluster is, some students say, I don't want to go to school today, and their parents say, okay. And they stay home and they don't show up, So we have to do something to motivate these kids to want to be here again and see the value in it. But if I put myself in their position, if I'm on a first grade reading level, sitting in a 7th or 8th grade class, it might be a little intimidating and embarrassing for me to sit there and everyone know that I just can't read. So I might want to stay home and watch television or do whatever they do too. So I can understand, but we can make a difference. Some of our next steps. We have our student, our targeted student list. What we'll do is, once we find out all the members of the team, so that would be part of the care team and some special ed staff as well, we'll assign caseloads. I'm trying to keep it at about 5, and depending on the size of the team, it may be even less. If it's less students in your caseload, it's better. If it's only 3 students you have to make contact with once a week, that's fine, because chances are you may see them in passing, you may have them in your class. You could just check in on them. We'll begin our student monitoring, and at our next meeting, I'll go over what that looks like. I didn't want to overwhelm you with everything. Part of the state requirements is that we have a rubric that we have to score. The rubric is long, guys, but it's a lot of things that you're already doing under your school improvement plan. So really, it's just checking off what you're doing, what team does that, who's responsible or has access to the information. So I'm going to share this with you. And then this goes into greater detail about the artifacts that are used to support the areas of the rubric. So when they talk about multi-level tier supports, you may have something in place that you all do. You may have a binder, you may have a system that you use, and just identifying what that is. Next, we'll have to identify the member responsibilities, and that's basically going off the rubric, who has access to what. Building the SF meeting calendar. Are we going to meet monthly with one of the core team meetings? I'm not sure of your frequency for your core team. So we'll figure out what we can do to make sure we meet that minimum requirement of 1 hour per month. And then building that technical assistance calendar. Dr. Bogan and I are eager to start helping teachers. So as soon as we find out what your PD calendar is and when we can embed Dr. Bogan in that, we'll start getting everything together to provide the training for reading interventions and then for SDI. Our plan for implementation of developed and purchased interventions, which I kind of went over, which would be the reading intervention that Dr. Bogan and I were kind of working on, and the Lexia licenses, and building our SF intervention toolkit. So I want to be able to have a resource here for you if you need help with attendance, if you need help with suspension alternatives, resources, people in the district, community-based support agencies for wraparound services, or even some mental health counselors, because we know that the mental health issue, the drug abuse issue, and there are other pervasive issues in this cluster. So I just wanted to be able to have a resource that was specific to South Atlanta and South Atlanta needs. And I just added a little quote because I felt like it spoke to the culture of Long and what Ms. Hill has inspired here. I mean, you all are doing some impactful work, and she's so different and unique than any other principal that I've seen. I mean, I don't feel in the way that she talks and in her interactions that special ed is separate. You know, it seems like you guys are a cohesive team. So I just want to continue to support that. And does anybody have any questions about any of the responsibilities, roles, anything that we discussed this morning? The plan? Okay. So we will be building an ESSA plan, but it's going to feed off of your school improvement plan. It's just going to have a focus for special education. And I know that there have been talks of financial constraints and things like that, but special ed does have, you know, some resources available to push out to our students. I think Dr. Bogan needs to come back up here.
Well,
you get
we
the
gonna
crowd
do this.
smiling, Dr. Bogan.
We gonna do this. I'm motivated about this. Gonna help some of our kids.
Yes.
Get this
I'm
done.
excited about what you guys are saying. I'm the science lead and the STEM program specialist, so I've been working closely with the science teachers and any teachers that I can help. And one of the things I've been talking to them about is very specifically about how you have to monitor student progress, but you also have to track that data so that you can see if what strategies you put in place are actually working, and if not, what can you do? We just 2 days ago, we looked at some student data, and I talked to them about if you have a student on the Lexile level, it literally was somebody with a 200, and you're giving them a science textbook on a 7th grade level, you've already turned them off. Like, they literally cannot give you what they don't have. So we need to put some strategies in the short term, and some things that I've recommended were tiered assignments, using menus, choice boards, and also using graphic organizers to chunk the writing and reading for them, so that it's in small stages, so they're not so overwhelmed, but also modeling how to fill out the graphic organizer and what information is actually important, because a lot of times kids look at a passage and they will highlight everything. Like, they don't know what's important and what's not important. So just, I think this is going to be impactful for the school at large. While it will target this group of students, I think that the information is going to be pertinent to the school at large.
I love that. I mean, I started my career as a gen ed teacher.
I'm an elementary person, by the way.
Oh.
I came from elementary.
So did I.
I know, because you talk like you did. Yes.
I started my career as a gen ed teacher, elementary as well. And so I guess the elementary people are used to wearing all those hats and just being everything all the time and teaching all subjects, whether you're an expert in it or not.
Yes.
And then I went to special education and saw the other side of it. And so as a gen ed teacher, you don't really understand progress monitoring.
Right.
And when you go for, RTI and they tell you, well, where's the data? You're like, what do you mean? Now what? How am I supposed to do data with 30 kids in my class? It's very challenging, and I understand the frustration of the gen ed teacher. So I want to be able to provide that bridge. And then on the other side of it, part of my experience was teaching special ed in a self-contained class for LD students with ELL population and students with disabilities. So it's the language deficit, and as well as having learning disabilities. It was challenging, but all of the things that you shared, that modeling piece is amazing. And then using multimodal approaches. And the tiered, when you talked about the tiered reading content, I mean, as soon as you talked about the 200 with the science content, I'm thinking, okay, we're gonna scale that down to a Lexile that's a little bit more comfortable for them, so they can at least get the subject matter, and then there's just so much stuff that we can do, but it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and you guys are already working hard. So we wanna be able to come in and support you. We don't wanna add on to what you do every day. We wanna support you and make it a little easier.
I want to make a comment. I really appreciate, the moment what you shared. We have a student like today, I would like to have some materials to pass on to a 6th grader who's, on the start, he was pre-primer. So he's behavior challenged, but he can't do the work. And teacher's like, how do I make time to break this work down for him? And he can't do it, and he's disruptive in the classroom. So it's a challenge. They need something like today. It's like I'm teaching buddy not buddy, and I gotta break this all the way down his level, all the way down. And so part of his frustration is behavior. He can't do the work. And that's just one student that I have in my case who's in the general ed side.
Right.
So the teachers need something to help them to bring it down.
And what your colleague is saying, it resonates. We have a situation now, we have a student, he's embarrassed being in class, and some way he's figured out that he can't do what everybody else is doing in class. Now we gotta come up with a special environment, and his attitude is not as bad, but we see why it's fluctuating up and down, and you're trying to talk to them, and they see you conferring one-on-one with them, but they're not looking at you, they're looking at everybody else in their class.
Watching them.
Like, jeez. And then now, well, I don't wanna hear what you gotta say. Talk to them. Guess what? You need to get up out of here. Let's go and get you down there to sit with the counselor or let you talk to the AP. You don't have a choice because you have to maintain discipline, but when you look at the fact, the underlying problem, they can't be a part of that class at that grade level. They are so far behind. All they know how to do or what to do is to misbehave and just react. Now we've deflected it. Now we're looking at behavior now. We're not looking at what I should be doing with this, my academics, pencil and paper. That's not even what we're talking about now. And we have got to help middle school teachers with that. You know, I've even talked to Ms. Daniels, like when they come here from 5th grade, does anyone talk to those 5th grade teachers and say, wait a minute? Like I tell them, hold on, how did he get through the door? What did you do? No one is saying that. No one is having that conversation. So you can't do all those beautiful things that we see on Fox 5, you know, the science programs and all the reading that we send to Washington, D.C. It's like, damn, I want to do that too. But you're spending all your time, you're managing behaviors, you're fighting it out every day. I have been here with you all every day. It's something else. And so I get excited and I get motivated because I have 21 schools, and I want to do something different with some of the schools to say, hey, let's try this program, let's pilot it, and let's see if we can make this work, and let's get you back motivated. And that was one thing that I told the ESSA team. Let's not show up and give them 10 to 15 extra things that they're already doing. And what I found out from my experience, it's best to look at what you're already doing and refine those processes. And you would be surprised, like I had a training session and we looked at informal reading inventories. Now, what shocked everybody is when we had the training session, everybody that came to the session, you don't get any handouts, all you get is blank sheets of typing paper. And they all looked at me like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be terrible. I don't know what he's trying to prove. But then, after I finished that 55-minute training session, it took me 45 minutes to get back to the highway because of you followed me, them two followed me, them three wanted me to walk through their classrooms. And it's like, now you see what you've been doing, but let's show you how we need to refine that process again and make sense and sensibility out of it. And so we just took general informal reading inventories, but we showed them this is how you develop your speculative design instruction. This is what parts of it are research-based best practice. And guess what? Anytime you develop those skills, you automatically have developed the assessments. And they all look like, wait. They all stop. Wait. We didn't see this. I'm like, but no one is simplifying it for you like that. So you think you got to redevelop the wheel, redevelop how to fly. No, you're already doing it. And so let's refine it and show those things to you. And that really hasn't been done for you all in years. And so that's what we want to bring, but that's simplifying. That's not adding anything new. That's taking what you already have and we're making sense and sensibility out of it. That's what we want to do. Because we don't want to add anything else. I see what your job is like. Right?
And some of my argument has been, we're talking about some high level stuff when some of our kids are just, still on that first level of Maslow's hierarchy. They just want to feel loved. Some of them just want clean clothes and to know, that they'll have a hot meal, or that a parent or guardian will be home. They're dealing with a lot, things that I couldn't even imagine. And so those are also barriers that we cannot control. So we're just going to do the best we can with what we have. And hopefully we can get started as soon as possible. If you couldn't tell by me being winded, I in my 3rd trimester, so I won't be here for much longer. But Dr. Bogan and Michelle Lowe, the other high school coordinator, and Dina Rogers will be covering while I'm out on maternity leave. But you can always, I'm a phone call away. It may take a little while for me to respond while I'm on leave, but typically my response time isn't so bad, right, Chastity?
No, it's not
This
bad.
last couple of weeks has been critical because I'm trying to get all the pieces together before I go out. Because we do have this upload now to DOE in January, and this is new. This is our last year of the initial grant. So all of this information now DOE is going to pour over and decide if they're moving forward with SIP in this way, because the idea is that this expands to the entire district. Okay. So I know it's a lot of information. I try to cover like 2 meetings in one. And I tell Chastity, oh, I'm not going to keep them long. I'm just going to do a brief overview. But as I was putting stuff together, I'm like, oh, they have to know this, and I have to tell them about that. And I just want to be able to get started, because we've kind of been sitting on this professional learning piece for a while, and we're ready to get in there and help you guys before the next semester.
Steps? Like after today, now what do we do next?
Okay, so next we're going to get our official roster of how many people are on the team so that we can assign caseloads. From there, you can begin the monitoring right away, and I'll show you the script. We can come up, the high school has a tool that we use, but we can come up with a tool that's similar to them, but that works for middle school, because your needs are gonna look so different than South Atlanta's needs. So whatever is the focus here, like if discipline or suspension or attendance is an issue, and you wanna focus on that, we can move pieces around so that it meets the needs along, and that's the beauty of this. It's just going to be prescriptive to your school. So if I was in another middle school, like King, theirs would look completely different than what it would look like at Long. You're building this team by what you know you need, and I don't know like you know, so I really need your input. And if it's more planning time, or if it's, these are things that we need to be able to talk about, and not worry about, backlash or anything like that. We're here to kind of try to fix the problem. We're, the Olivia Pope
Yeah.
of
So in
special
building
ed.
the team, do you have recommendations for who should be on the team? Like, how do we start building that team?
Well, the leadership team elected to start with the care team as the base, because you guys are already doing this work, but then to bring in some special ed pieces, teachers or people who have that day-to-day, some case managers, those who have that day-to-day interaction, who can speak to the challenges and needs of the special ed department. And then the engagement specialist serves on the team because she's a wealth of knowledge about this monitoring piece with the Check and Connect. So we're kind of copying the Check and Connect model a little bit. But it's like I said, it's on an informal. Now at South Atlanta High School, we monitored and made comments in Infinite Campus, and we just put S up near the comment. But then that was last year. That's what they wanted to do. Now this year they said they don't want to do that. So we're going to be commenting on the Google document that we created.
Okay.
So it's a collaborative process. I'm not coming in trying to tell you anything. I'm just trying to help you and facilitate anything that I may have heard that is going well in Clayton or Cobb or Gwinnett. One district had a study block, but the study block was prescribed. They had a scope and sequence of skills that they were going to address over the semester. They did a little bit of intervention. They did a little bit of transition through Aspire and student-led IEPs. And so they were able to hit all these different areas in that study block. So I shared that with the South Atlanta team. South Atlanta created their own study block system. So now they have a content area teacher that front loads content, and then the next day they do the online component. That's what they need, and that's what works for them. So we can be as creative as we want to be, and Ms. Hill seems like she's open to just, hear what other fresh ideas we may have. And you all are the experts. You're in it day in and day out, so you know what you need. The administrators know what they need, from you all, or what would make their load a little lighter. So maybe we have, I don't know if is there a student success center here for a discipline in this building?
We had one, but we transitioned the personnel. That's the ISS teacher, and the last one that was trained, our new one did not get trained, so we have to get the new person in. That was a last minute
Okay,
swap, so we were supposed to have it, so we might have to get back in on the next training for that.
okay. So like if there's anything, a result of conversation with South Atlanta was, we need to know the difference between socially maladjusted and EBD. So I just spoke with the coordinator for psych services. She's like, okay, no problem. Another request was, we need training in mental health first aid. Okay, no problem. You know, so we get it to the building, or they offer it at ISC, and here are the courses that you can select. So whatever you feel you need, I try to make that happen. And what we're trying to do is beef up our resource pool of external stakeholders. We want to get some more community groups to support the community, to support the school, to support the students, to support the staff. And then the wellness room.
The wellness room.
The wellness room will be a gift.
And also Chris 360.
And Chris 360. The wellness room will be a gift for staff, a place of retreat, a place where you can kind of de-stress when you're about to, you know, so that you don't have to walk out. You can go into this tranquil environment and kind of decompress, gather your thoughts. You know, no phones, no arguing, no student talk, no parent talk, just a quiet place that has maybe some soft music, low lit, some essential oils diffusing. For nursing moms, they, you know, I'm providing a screen so that they have some privacy. And then you can go back into, you know, regular population, for lack of better words, and you'll be able to make it through the day. You know, just having that time for yourself, because self-care is very important in our field. We don't want you all to burn out. We want you to be able to enjoy this profession that you chose. And that's all.
Any additional questions for Ms. Ferroudj or Dr. Bogan?
And I might be jumping the gun. With the kids who are like beginning readers, are we using assessments like Dibbles that will drill it all the way down so a teacher can know this baby needs phonemic awareness, this baby needs phonics, this baby, and if so, would the individual content teacher, will it be on the ELA teacher? Would it be a special class for these children? And what would it kind of look like if we have to bridge a kid from that low performing level?
So you're gonna drive that, because what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in and provide the technical assistance, and you're gonna see what works best with your schedule. I'm not sure how your scheduling goes. I don't know how you could build that into your instructional block. If you have 60 minutes, 90 minutes for your ELA time. So I'm not sure how you want to do provide your intervention or do your assessments, if you want to start at the beginning of class or at the end of class, and you know. So basically you're going to drive that ship, and we're going to work together to make sure that it's feasible. And if you try and you say it's not working this way, okay, then let's go back and let's see what will. Dr. Bogan and I will come in and we'll coach, we'll model, we'll support in any way we can, and we're going to just work together.
So if that's the intervention that we're looking at, then let's just sit down and talk and look at the schedule and see who could benefit, and see how we can just kind of build it into the ELA class, or maybe we can build it in at another, you know, at another time or something like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, not all students are that low. But I'm saying for those low performers, like the ones that Ms. Power is talking about, he's extremely low. Basic letter sounds, blends, you know, diphthongs, all of that. He's just.
See, this was and I want to be a little bit more specific. I get what you're saying. Okay, I'm not really a supporter of Dibbles, and I know we